Welcome to another episode of Sit Down and Think, where we get the skinny on what is happening in animation. Today, I am joined by the crew of Glitch Text, the latest series from Nickelodeon and Netflix. So, who are you guys? What do you do?
I'm Dan Milano.
Beat us in.
I know you always set me up. I'm the co-creator, co-EP of Glitch Text along with Eric Robles, and I'm as the story editor.
My name is Eric Robles, and I am a co-creator, executive producer, and love animation my entire life.
Jules, you want to go?
Sure. I'm Jules Bridgers. I was a revisionist on all of season 1 and 2.
And I'm Phil Jacobson. I was board artist on the first 2 seasons as well. So, yeah.
All right, then. So, to start us off with a very serious question I must know. In the midst of the world being on fire and just an uncertain future ahead of us, how are you all doing?
That's a solid question.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I mean, in the midst of all this craziness, I think it's a good time to have good animation in the world as a great distraction. And we are so proud to be a part of that distraction right now as the current environment is crazy. And it has allowed us to be distracted in the times of, need because there is so much going on in our industry. So in the midst of craziness, I think I'm doing pretty good.
I determine my wellness on a daily basis. Like I wake up and take my temperature in a way, like my overall and I do that probably every few hours. And if I feel like going fetal, I do. And if I'm feeling better, I'll look at the news. And we're taking it as it comes. And I think we've held on really tight to each other and to strangers and tried to be, kind of active in our community more and more. And we do try to distract ourselves, hopefully, with, being creative and doing the work. But it's hard. It's up and down. It's such a crazy time. We're just doing our best. And we got a lot to be proud of. So we just want to keep, hoping that we keep moving in that direction.
Right.
Yeah. I take my morning sit outs on the front stoop and get some sunlight and have my moment of existential dread, and then I kind of just deal with it. A lot of distraction from Monster Hunter, that helps, but besides that, just working, just drawing and dealing for the man.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of the same for me. I started a job working with a team in Australia, actually the team that animated the Glitch Text intro, and I think it was episodes 3 and 4. Well, I guess I should Gauntlet and so it's been fun really getting to work for them, because we're all remote right now, and I was gonna be anyways, and then now I actually just have my roommates chilling at home with me, so I'm actually kind of enjoying it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've mostly been going through Avatar again for the 15th time. Has that been everybody's kind of experience? My girlfriend had never seen it before, and I was like, hey, do you just want to watch Avatar? And she was like, she's not a huge animation fan, and she got really into it. We went through the entire series in 3 weeks.
And the themes are more resonant than ever.
Oh, I mean, for real,
it's
definitely so relevant now. It's really cool how it's kind of found this second life on Netflix. So that's been a lot of what I've been up to.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. I definitely see just a lot of, pretty much with all this kind of messing with life and everything, it's changed everything. But I mean, I've been getting through mainly just by talking to people from the other black cartoon communities and such. That's pretty much how I've been getting through, just being able to talk to my friends every day, just chatting, just knowing they're there. By the time we get back to some sense of normalcy, it's they're there.
Yep.
That's always the great thing.
Yeah, we all need each other as like a touchstone. I always say it's like in the zombie movies when you just see another building that has a sign that says like alive inside. It's like, oh my God, there's other people who think and feel like I do, and they're still here. Okay, there's still some people, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, Jules and Phil. Bree Williams says hi.
Oh, hey.
Oh,
How's she doing?
Yeah.
She
course.
says
So funny.
she says she really misses you guys, like through all this.
We miss her too. Yeah, I feel like we see her on Twitter every now and then, but obviously it's been a few 5 months since we've actually seen her in person.
Yeah, she was a great roommate. I was rooming with her and her boyfriend for like a year. They were really good. I missed them.
Yeah, for all those who don't know, Bree Williams is the production manager of Proud Family's new reboot, Louder and Prouder, coming sometime.
Right. She moved over to that. I forgot about that. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, we're all proud of Bree. She's awesome.
Oh, Bree.
So, getting into some glitch techs, what was the biggest inspiration for it, really? Because it has so much like it feels like a major labor of love dedicated to gaming and just nerd culture. So what was the biggest things that really influences that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, it's not just one thing. I think it's a lot of things. It definitely starts with, I think at its core, it starts with what we remember as Saturday morning cartoons. And it's the feeling of this joy of watching a cartoon that you think you know what's going to happen, and the surprise is it takes you in a whole different direction that opens up your imagination in a way that you did not expect. And that's what I felt like Saturday morning cartoons did. Whether they actually did that, who knows? I just remember the feeling it gave me as a kid, right? Mm-hmm. And at the time of development, that's really kind of where I wanted my headspace to be. So at that time, I was watching a lot of the original Ghostbusters series, the real Ghostbusters from the 80s. And I just really was drawn to the storytelling and, being a big fan of Ghostbusters from the 80s, I really wanted to draw on something that felt very genuine to that kind of feeling of Saturday morning, right? And then when I knew I couldn't just do Ghostbusters, I wanted to kind of create my own version of what Ghostbusters was. So that's when I really kind of started thinking about well, if it's not Ghost, what else is out there that can represent what a ghost, coming into our world would be? And that's when, you put the peanut butter and jelly together and, you have a video game kind of concept, and you have the day in the life of, these kind of, Geek Squad type crew who would show up and take care of this business. But again, that's just kind of the concept itself. But there, underneath it all, there's a genuine feeling that continued throughout the production that everybody just ran with. But in thinking of Ghostbusters and this concept and putting it together, the inspiration of video games, the inspiration of the cartoons, the Saturday morning kind of cartoons, action, all these kinds of elements were really kind of coming together in my head. But I needed really to expand that. So that's when I had pitched it over to Dan. And Dan Milano is definitely the one who is a huge Ghostbusters fan. So he definitely knew exactly what that vibe was and what that feeling was. And then I'll let you continue from there, Dan.
Well, yeah. And then as everyone else speaks, it is a very much an inspiration train. It moves with this momentum, and then everybody starts bringing something. And as a collective, we're all drawing from the same zeitgeist of influences. And then what's great is you have people who maybe will bring in influences completely outside what we know, who are operating on their own level, which is great. It makes it really dimensional, and it makes it derivative of so many wonderful things, and yet also completely original. So we began with Ghostbusters, Men in Black type premise, right? Adding video games, said, okay, well, clearly we can bring genre influence from a multitude of video games. But then we started, Eric was very big in the beginning on it also being very slice of life. The job shouldn't necessarily be the hugest deal to these kids who kind of punch the time clock every day, or a character like Phil, who is their manager, and he's been doing this for years. So that had like a Clerks element to it, you know, just sort of workplace feel. Then as we developed the lore, I was a frustrated feature writer who'd been wanting to do 1 hours. So I was just like, I want it to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, I want a sort of serialized but Monster of the Week vibe and to bring characters who talk relatably and with their own slang. And then, you know, we just kept piling on, you know, the moral conscience and representation of Star Trek. And those are the things we talked about the most. And then it just became, ooh, we love Fooly Cooley, we love Edgar Wright, we love Trigger Studios and Gynax, and like it was just this hodgepodge. But because we all believed in the theme, you know, it didn't come out a mess. It came out like a really nice simmered recipe of all these various influences, I think, because we all have the same intent. I mean, and these guys, I'm going to tee them up. And you look over their shoulder and see what they did, you know, they're bringing their influences into it.
Yeah, again, like Dan was saying, a lot of it, you know, is we all just kind of kept passing the ball to one another, and we were very selective on bringing like a, you know, certain team together. And Ian Graham, our supervising producer, was a big part of that. And so he was the one who was really kind of like honing in on the kind of talent that we needed for a show like this that would require not only action, but comedy and a balance of that. So the kinds of team that we decided to all put together was a team that really understood what this wanted to be. And not that, you know, we all have the answers, you know, on the leadership side of what this thing was going to be. It was more of a being open to the collaboration.
Yeah, quite the opposite. So what were you guys mostly drawing from?
And bringing guys like Jules and Phil in.
I keep trying to tee them up.
I mean, I feel like whenever we would try to add something to the episode, whenever we try to, you know, throw something else into the mix, like the answer for us was always just kind of like, you know, when we come talk to you guys about it, the answer is always like, well, what do you love? Then like put that into it. And in that regard, I think we probably had more freedom than I've ever had on a show to really just kind of like take whatever it was that I wanted to do and put it into an episode. Like, you know, I don't want to get too specific because I don't want to spoil anything for people that haven't maybe seen an episode yet. But like at one point I went to Dan and I was like, hey, can I do like a whole transformation thing with like swords and whatever? And he was like, yeah, let's go for it. And we sat down and plotted it out. And it was just like, do you love that thing? Great. Then, you know, find a way to put it in the episode. And that was just kind of a recurring theme for every single, you know, section that I get. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, it was really nice to be able to kind of be genuine and add fun things we liked and enjoyed in a way that was respectful but also not like too ham-fisted. And like there's occasionally you're gonna have a thing here or there. Like there's some people who like, you know, oh, it has this one line or this one thing. I'm like, it's gonna happen. Like you're making a show that's for an audience that's like a wide range of ages. Like if it has like a thing about being a gamer, it's like, oh, who cares? Like it's fun. Kids will be inspired by it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun doing a bunch of like adding things that we really liked and enjoyed growing up, playing and watching and being invested in, and then harnessing that energy to creative outlet. I know myself as a kid would have liked it, so you know that's good. I just
that was a common thing between everybody. What
Yeah.
we wanted when we were kids, and asking that of a very diverse group of people.
I do remember, Eric, you had that one story about like being in high school or being in middle school, wherever it was, like passing by like a bunch of kids playing D&D and stuff, and then like some of your friends at the time were like, haha, what a bunch of losers, and you're like, ha 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 ha, ha. Yeah, looks not fun at all, ha.
Yeah,
I want to play the game.
It really wasn't that they were, you know, they would say loser or anything like that. I grew up in a very like a gang, you know, heavy environment. And those were the kinds of people I grew up with, you know, growing up out here in LA and what have you. So I was definitely surrounded more with the gang affiliated type kind of crew. And the thing was, I always was the kind of kid who enjoyed more of the cartoons and goofiness and all the silliness, but I was, raised in an environment that didn't, or didn't really allow that, They saw that as kid stuff. And I was just more jealous of the other kids who would, during lunch, would go gather up at lunch tables and play D&D. And I would long to want to go play with those guys instead, because I knew that they were using their imaginations, and I could just imagine the kinds of worlds that they were building. And the great thing about, Glitch Techs and any of the shows that I've been a part of is that, I'm basically living that childhood dream in a way where I get to hang out with, the guys who want to create worlds, who want to imagine what things can be like and the possibilities. And I know, Dan is definitely kind of like that kid who I always wanted to play with, because he has that big imagination and wants to, continue adding to the creativity. So, I always say I just came with a sandbox with different toys, and everybody just came into the sandbox and kept adding to these amazing stories that we all played with together.
In this upcoming drop of episodes, the majority of which were produced in the second half of our production cycle, which means that we were starting to really also get our momentum together and our efficiency. You're going to see elements of the show brought completely by Jules and Phil, as well as by others in our collective, elements of Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, kaiju, board gaming, and then emotional ideas. If you're going to see dance, it's because Phil was kind of obsessed with studying dance while he was drawing the show, and so everything leaked in. Everyone was listening to the Adventure Zone podcast, and so we had all these things that
had to come up at least once while we were doing this, for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of a melting pot of influences, but they would all congeal with gaming and with being in touch with just kind of being a kid and wanting to see kids that felt like real people to us.
So yeah, I think that's the one thing I've noticed with Glitch Tech is that it has so many different influences, and as you watch it, you notice all these different things. It's oh, I know that reference. I know that the most notable, I guess I could say, is the one where it's clearly Castlevania, and it's okay. Did y'all ever feel it was a little tricky trying to bring all these different things together and keep it all coherent and such? Because you managed to do that to a T, but did it ever feel difficult trying to do that?
I think it's always difficult, I think conceptually we can say we want to do something like this, something like that, but I think the the magic that Dan definitely brings to the table is the structure of it all, and making sure that underneath all these cool ideas that we're also telling these heartfelt stories, and that's kind of the place that I feel that we're all very proud of, is being able to layer these cool concepts, whether it's these Castlevania episodes or what have you, but underneath it all, layering these really kind of heartfelt stories, and the balance of all that was really tricky. So it's not a matter really of just kind of throwing concepts, because we can pick as many video game ideas as we want, right? Because it's pretty limitless. But trying to structure a story around that, I think that's, again, one of those things that really is what makes the show special.
It was a great problem to have. There was a lot of nausea and a lot of what I used to call the good headache, meaning it was literally a headache, but it was because it was worthy. We were just crunching our heads on really cool stuff. And that was this kid in the candy store feeling that we could do anything. We could pull from anywhere. It was as vast as if we were doing a parody of cinema, and we could do any movie genre. And so it was that plus the diversity of video game. So the wall was covered with cool ideas, oh, we'd love to do this game, we'd love to do that game. But you didn't know which way to go, and it was very arresting and scary, because once you make these decisions, it affects a lot of people and it affects the quality of the show. So we're all just like kind of froze up. But then when you start to get to know the characters and you let the characters drive the story, then it's no longer about Castlevania. It's about the Five and Miko relationship. It's about specifically that feeling of like being stuck in a video game and not being able to find your way out. And either you're the completionist or you're the person who lets it go. And you either have shame about that or you don't. And like working those ideas in help dictate what should be or not be in the story. So when you have a cool idea, but it's not fitting the story, then you have a reason to just like throw it away. Or in our case, we just hang it up on the wall and hope to use it again later and then go, So the story helped us make choices. And if you watch the show's episodes in order, and most of the episodes are in the order they were produced. There were a few that got moved around because reasons, but if you look at them in order, you will basically see us experimenting as we went. Like saying, here's the premise. It's kind of this movie about these kids who enter this new world. Episode 2, we were worried we were forgetting comedy, so it's more of like a broader romp. We were too afraid to go out in the world. We kept it in HQ to kind of get to know HQ. Then we step out with Going Gauntlet and we meet our first glitch on the street. You can actually see us figuring out the show. And then as it goes, it gets more confident, I think.
Okay, so it basically, as it went, like it started off pretty tricky, but then you found your groove as you went along, and I think, like you said, it was as you watch the show, you can kind of notice, and yeah, I think that is very much the case, because I saw it's like, okay, they really started seeing the stride, and I do think, and I'm pretty sure for season 2 is probably it's pretty much the same thing, where it's like y'all have full on hit the stride.
Oh man, it's so good.
These episodes coming up are really some of my favorites, I think.
I'm really excited for them.
It sounds biased, but it's not biased. They were a lot of fun. Kind of springboarding off what Dan was saying, like I think what I really appreciated that you and Eric had kind of set up early on was like, it's our sandbox, but like we're inviting you to play in it. So there was, but then you also kind of kept the restriction that was nice was, if you're gonna pitch an idea to us or kind of like go with an idea, it wasn't like, oh, this episode's about like a side scroller, this one's about like a beat 'em up. It's like, no, we're taking those elements and like kind of compounding those with the main story of the characters per episode. It just so happens that the game aspect is really pushing that forward. It's kind of the catalyst. It's kind of like building and building and building. There's one that I don't think is going to be in this next drop, involving some food stuff. But that one really hit hard because that was a solid one.
Yeah, that was really good, man. It's one of those that again, it's almost like it's an awful teaser for everybody listening to this, because it's an episode that is not part of the next 10. It's part of the 10 that are not being completed just yet. But just to continue on what Jules is saying there, like it's one of the episodes that emotionally, it's probably one of the strongest emotional episodes that we had. And it's such a fun one at the same time, but man, there's just some heaviness to it. But that kind of stuff just shows that we were able to, or we could go down that route if we wanted to. But it's such a fun balance to be able to do that and then come back to our world.
It's directed by Hyunju Song, and it was a huge ensemble that included all the families of Miko and Five. And I've said this online, the reason you're not seeing it is that we had a batch of unproduced episodes from season 2 We got permission to bring a couple of those up to season 1 to still be produced, and we had to trade out some of the season 1 episodes to make that happen. And it was really like a choice that I can't even say was right or wrong, because whenever we talk about it, I actually full on regret it. But at the time, and I can still remember why we did it, we felt it's right because there are other things we wanted to showcase and we wanted people to be able to see. So, you know, it's the call we made. And the hope for all this is that no matter what happens, you know, whether it's quickly, which is our hope, or if it takes some time, eventually those episodes can go straight to animation and be seen by people. I was even trying to set up us doing a table read of that episode online, as you know, and we were working on getting permission from Nick to do that, so at least people could hear it, you know.
Right.
And then fans can animate their own version from the audio.
Right. That'd probably be really cool to see. So they're like, I mean, feel free to say like this is stepping over boundaries or anything, but is there like how many exact episodes are just in the waiting period of just needing to be animated and such?
10, right?
10 episodes, yeah.
10 full scripts were written and locked and recorded. Of those 10, I would say I think 7 of the animatics were also locked and ready to ship for animation. So if we do get a green light to do more, we could probably put 6 or 7 immediately toward animation, and then while that's happening, we could continue working on, you know, some more.
And even those last few, even though they weren't done completely finished in animatics, they were already thumbnailed, you know, up to the 10. So I mean, they're and they're all good. That's the
208. 208 is.
Yeah, see, I mean, it hurts us so much because we know how good. Again.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, I took a second.
We should concentrate on talking about the next batch.
Yes.
A lot of the
Before we all
things
just get like heartbroken, like no.
a lot of the things fans are asking for is in those episodes, which is
you know, again, it's I think the best way to put it is that you know, the thing that the audience I think is asking for now is more of the general story of where we're gonna go, and we desperately wanted to do a series that had that. At the time, the network asked us not to really do that. So what we did, you know, they wanted more Monster of the Week kind of things for us. But what we did is we built, you know, these tentpole episodes that, you know, have the storyline, you know, even though you have those mixed episodes in there that are the Monster of the Week kind of feel. But we did have those tentpole episodes. But, you know, as we got further along in the series, then we got the trust from the network. We figured out who we were as a show, and it allowed us to really kind of get into more of the lore of where we wanted to go with the series. And unfortunately, you know, even though we do have bits and pieces of that in that next batch, you know, the lore did continue of what the series is and where the story was in even the following 10 after this next batch.
It is a series interrupted no matter how much you slice it. There's a lot of satisfying stuff coming up, but it's not we don't have you know, it's not fully resolved.
Right. So
and we weren't planning to fully resolve just yet.
So the biggest thing is it's just a matter of it gets out there, the people watch it, the people enjoy it as they have been so far, and that's when you'll know what your futures are.
Got a lot of good stuff coming, man. That's what I was gonna say. You know, we got a lot of good stuff coming. This next 10 are, again, I think we're all super proud of them. You know, these guys, our entire board team, like everybody in our staff just put their heart and soul, because we really kind of found our footing with these next 10. And so we really hope that, you know, the audience enjoys the energy that we're bringing to these next 10 with the story, with the boarding, with everything that's done. I mean, you know, Jules, Phil, you guys can talk about like some of your favorite like episodes, you know, that are coming up.
Yeah, I definitely want to know.
Not too much detail, but you know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be super vague. I mean, I think Ridley has definitely already appeared online.
Yeah, she was in the trailers.
So we can safely, to a degree, I think, talk about Ridley. But our team, me and Sarah and Sung, who I definitely want to give a shout out to the two of them, and then Chris Graham, our director. We did a lot of the Ridley episodes, and Melissa, who was our animatic editor, like she put a lot of love into those animatics too. Like it was just, I don't know. I'm super excited about those. Like there are definitely some really big. I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase it. The world opens up a lot. I think I can say that and keep it kind of vague and spoiler free. The world opens up a lot. Like Dan and Eric both kind of touched on the fact that there is so much that's been unexplored in the Glitch Text universe. And, you know, Jules can vouch. We'd sit there at lunch every day and just come up with, like, what ifs. Like, the entire board crew, we were so into, like, the lore of everything. Like, well, what if this happened? Like, maybe this works this way. Like, what if, you know, this character is able to do X, Y, Z or whatever with their,
Just making up the stuff about, like, your specs and stuff. Like, the fact you can kind of respec, like, you know, because it's funny because I think that we laughed about there's a line that Zara said where she's like I can't lead, I'm spec and support.
Oh yeah,
we laughed we're like yeah, if
you liar.
If by supporting me in big weapons, then that's a really funny way of saying that. But then Dan's like, oh, you can respect. Who cares? Like you can just like
the characters can respect, and fans picked up on that. They were like, how come she says she's support? And it's like, oh, she didn't want to be leader. She was just like she's looking at her phone and playing it down, and you can respect depending on the mission. And stuff like that is great to reveal. And some of those things we kind of knew ahead of time, and others we don't. It's not until we have the conversation that we say, oh, let's figure this out, what it all means.
I still hold that Zara, that she lied. That she was like, I don't want to be the boss. Like, oh yeah, I'm spec for support. I don't want to do this.
She's shrugging it off.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm good. Like,
I still pray for the blue mage idea. That was one that's like, I will fight if I can have one thing to fight for. I'm like, I'm gonna fight for that. If somehow work it in. And
that's all we need to hear to want to work it in too.
Yeah. I think of all the episodes coming out, though, the two that pop up in my head, one Phil's definitely tied to a lot, involving some good monster fights. And other kind of fights.
We're trying to find the ways to keep it vague, huh? It's
but also there's one that's a very horror-esque theme that's right up my alley. Yeah. That was one that I was glad to get to touch on. It was the other team. It was Ben and
Alex
Chu, yeah.
Was Alex on that one or yet?
Wait. Probably not.
It was Ben, Mike, and
right.
And Sheldon.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and
then, Sheldon Bella, yeah.
And then Phil and Laura directed that one. But that one was definitely fun to kind of get to touch and kind of have a hand on too. That was fun.
That was Adam Rickovus on the animatic, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just to give the shout out to him too, because I mean,
when you
Adam's
Melissa, that's Melissa Lugo, and Sarah and Sung are Sarah Partington and Sung Kim.
Yeah, we just had such a great crew. Like I know like everybody's gonna say that on every show that they work on, but I mean like honestly, like I can't understate like how close this crew was as we were working on this. Like our board team, we would just go eat lunch together like every single day, and we were excited genuinely to like talk about the show and just like pitch out the weirdest, like wildest ideas. We'd bust down Dan and Eric's door like every other day, being like, "Hey, can we like do an episode about this and this and that?" And Dan would be like, "Okay, yeah, hold on, calm down. Let's write it all down. Let's put it up on the wall." And like, we had this idea board, and I'm sure there's pictures of it floating around somewhere. Dan, you cataloged everything. One day you'll have to
we have
post some
to
of
get in the
those,
archives and show all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which we should ask though. I mean, as the series creators, which episodes are you guys like super jazzed about like coming up?
In the first,
how do we say it without saying it, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we're tiptoeing around it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we just have such a again. I think that the show itself allows itself to be very different with each episode that we did. And there's definitely like ones that you just love these sections that are coming up, and you love other sections that are coming up, and as a whole, you just love the whole thing. So it's hard. It's hard to pick your baby. Right?
Yeah, I've asked you an impossible question. I realize
it really is, because there's just, you know, as a whole, we just, you know, I think the best way to put this in perspective is the show doesn't belong to Dan or I. The show belongs to the crew. Like, you know, our names come up as credits and, you know, as created by and all that stuff, but it really wasn't, and nor do I personally care, and I think Dan feels the same way. Like, there's just kind of like this thing that we all decided to go to the park and play. And we all became best friends when we played, you know? I tried to, you know, and Dan has the same mentality. I think that's why we work so well as partners is, you know, we really wanted to build a team of people who just wanted to play with us. And we respect our crew, we respect our talent, from art direction, you know, from Scott Kakuda to his team of bringing, you know, Eric Pay, you know, Cesar Martinez, we had Arenio, I mean, just everybody who was a part of that, Mayumi, Evan, like the designers to board artists, to everybody who was a part of this just really kind of came in with that play attitude. And it was something that I definitely wanted to set the tone for early, because I had worked on so many different productions throughout the years where you just felt like you were part of a job, not a part of the team. And we really wanted to create an environment where we were all just kind of like doing our mini, you know, early Pixar days of creating something with nobody looking over our shoulders. And we were just doing our own thing at Nickelodeon in the corner, and nobody was paying attention to us. You know, Nickelodeon was doing its big properties. It has its SpongeBob's and Turtles and everything else. So we were just kind of like, you know, this team that was put in a corner to do our thing, and we'll see what they do later. And we were, in the meantime, we were creating something really special and doing our thing.
Yeah, very early in development, Eric came in my office and shut the door, and he was like, I feel like we're crew. In the best way. He's like, we're crew on this thing. Like, I just wanna see this show. Like, I'm happy to be working on this show. You know what I mean? He's like, that's a great feeling. It's a great feeling because it means that you're enthused and connected to everybody, as opposed to the loneliness of some person steering a ship, you know, and everyone else just like also feeling like, well, just tell us where you want to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It feels like instead of it just one captain steering the ship and everyone just follow the orders, it's everyone's contributing together and just putting their flavor of love into it.
That's right.
I gotta say that's pretty amazing, for real.
It was unique for all of us, and that's why it's very special to us. We certainly haven't had it before, you know, like this.
I've never been on a show where sorry, Dan. I was gonna say, like, I've never been on a show where I really actively looked forward to pitch meetings, because it really did. But you know, we throw our episode up on the screen and walk through it together, and it was really just an open forum. Like, whoever had an idea, anybody was free to talk and contribute. Like, we've had amazing ideas for every single episode come from everybody that works on the crew. Like, it was such a cool experience to be a part of, and it's something that I want to, like, you know, take with me moving forward. Just getting to walk through every episode together, and I mean, those meetings would run like 3 or 4 hours as we just broke it down and talked about what worked and what didn't work, and we were really honest about it. Like, there was no tension. It just, I mean, it felt like a really tight crew. We were able to talk about everything. It was awesome.
I really enjoyed that aspect too. Specifically, like when it's anyone can help or anyone can throw an idea in. That was basically true. Like, anybody. Like, Katie Shaughnessy on production had, like, she got to write a script, didn't she?
She wrote she was commissioned for a premise and credited for the input she did. Yep, absolutely.
Like that, I remember.
She was amazing.
Yeah, you guys threw me some pages, like a section here or there to board, and I still remember like being at the end of. I got to do the end of one of them, and being there kind of late working after the day job, and you were there late. And I was like, hey, so here's the ending of the script. Can I tweak it this way? And you're like, sure, okay, because you said spin me what you're thinking. And I told you, and you're like, do it and see if it works. And I took it that direction. I remember like at the screening, I was like super nervous with it. I remember Ian turning. He's like, "Hey, who added that little last part?" I'm like, "Oh, that was me." He's like, "Ah, that was good. That's funny." I'm like, "Oh God," because he's so dry. So when he always like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Yeah,
that's a high compliment for Ian. So it's like,
yep.
oh no, oh good.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't give it out without major reason to say anything positive. And people should know, like, so the board, in my mind, and being new to animation with Eric really introducing me to the world, and I'd had a little experience writing for animation, but all I knew about the process was when I would wander around and talk to crew members and ask questions. But I see our board artists, along with our actors, they're sort of like, they create one big improv actor. So they're given the parameters of the scene. You can even be given a script with very detailed requests for how the scene should go. But as an actor, they then take on the physicality of the role, and they're also their own directors and cinematographers to an extent, because they have control of their frames. They're just working with their episode directors on that. But they have license to do whatever they feel needs to be done. And sometimes they want to try something. They should be able to have that improv, and they know where the scene is going or should be going. If they have a problem with it, they could mention it to us and explain why it feels limiting or frustrating, and we can talk it out. A lot of times they just want to try putting things in, and we wanted to encourage that. Because it's acting, and the process is such that if for some reason aspects of it weren't working, we were always able to tweak, adjust, remove. So I think we really rarely ever felt a reason to say no, unless the episode was in very late stages and getting ready to lock, and we just didn't have time to be exploratory. But from somebody from live action, to me, that was just like an actor asking for a take. Can I do one like this? So yeah. Yes. So you surprise me.
You just allow that type of freedom for your actors and such, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know any director that shouldn't allow for, takes like that, or a producer or whatever. And Eric was so generous from the moment I met him, generous to me, generous in spirit, to Ian, who was a generous soul. And so I felt, well, if Eric doesn't feel the need to lock things down so tight, then I certainly don't. Like we all take our signals from the head, If it stinks from the head, and Robles smelled good. He let everybody know, like, hey man, we're gonna go for it, and we're gonna try, and we're gonna shoot for the moon, and if it's a problem, we'll fix it.
Yep. And again, that's where Ian really was awesome in setting up our pipeline, because it allowed us to make our mistakes early and experiment early, as opposed to trying to rush everything towards the end of the production. And being open-minded to experiment and what have you, we were all able to collaborate and mix it up front. And then very minimal tweaks towards the end of animatics and getting ready for shipping. So, just having that attitude of, can we do this? Can we explore? Last minute discussions, like Jules was saying, and all of us just kind of like being open to looking at the that episode and looking at it, big picture, and saying, is this limiting? Is it not limiting? Like what else can we do to make it better? We were always just open to that up front. But again, you can't just do that in productions. You have to have the right people involved. And I say this only because, I'm a big conceptual guy. Like I think big, you know, I want to go out with a big boom. I want big this, big that, all kinds of cool stuff happening, right? And you know, I learned a lot from Dan because Dan really comes from the structure side of things. And then he says, underneath all that bing, bang, boom, and all that stuff, like, what are we trying to say? And then that's where, you know, his magic would come in, and that's the layer. And then Ian would gut check both of us and make sure that, you know, we're balancing each other out. So it really kind of just took this team of, you know, of all of us just kind of gut checking each other. So that way, if Ian, Dan, and myself were in agreement, then it would allow the rest of the creativity from the crew to explore, because then we can balance out what's working and what's not working when those ideas would come.
Right.
And pipeline was a huge part of that process, being able to have the time to make those explorations. Ian is very proud to say that because we put more time up front than in the back, we actually, we never really rebroke a story past our thumbnail stage, which is a big deal. As much work as we did and as hard as it was, from the first animatic on, it was almost always a process more of refinement than start over. Like we rarely threw something out and started all over again. And some of that, frankly, is also, we did that out of respect for the fact that anything we did write or come up with needed to be boarded. And that meant wrist time and brain time and energy for our team. And we didn't want them to use their energy to like reboard unnecessarily. We wanted them to use that energy to like, to refine and to perfect. So that hopefully, even though it was killer on them, well, and you guys can speak for yourselves, but the intent was that for the most part, you should be revising things that you were happy to do because you saw it improving and you understood why, as opposed to like, they're making me do this for the third time and I don't even know why, you know?
I feel like that's always the go-to. I feel like when people see animatics from like, more recently at least, like some action shows, people always have it's genuine concern and it's very appreciated concern about like people overworking themselves, but like I can probably I'm not gonna speak for you, Phil. You can talk for yourself, but like I think all of us worked that late or that hard because we wanted to. It was kind of more of like, oh, what time is it? Oh, okay, we didn't know we were working on this for this long, but like, you know, it was out of love. We didn't do it because we're like, you guys had like a gun to our head or anything.
I think that's the blessing and the curse of an artist. Like, you know, you fall in love with your art, and it doesn't, you know, there's, you know, it's hard to, you know, there is like this blurred line there of like, oh, it's work, so I should stop. But then again, it's still your art, and you love it. Whether you were getting paid or not, you want to contribute to your art yourself, and it's something that's self-fulfilling at the same time. That is when you're working on something you love. Hey, you know, before we continue and we get back on topic with season 2, why don't we tease just something from an episode that's coming that we love, man, just to get this guy a little something here.
Oh, all right then.
Like we can like pitch something out there.
Let's just say I'm looking forward. How's this? I'm looking forward to a new team that we're going to be meeting from another branch.
Okay.
Yes.
Glitch Techs. Another branch of Glitch Techs.
It's the real ones, the real Glitch Techs.
Oh, the real Glitch Techs, you say?
Yeah. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about meeting a new team that will appear in these next 10 batch of episodes. So how about who's next?
Dan, what about you?
I'm very excited to meet other people, like new customers, and learn more about Mitch Williams and like the kind of missions like he goes on that other people don't quite know about, and you know, just really developing him more as a character and getting to know him, because he's one of our most enigmatic characters, and he's really polarized the fans with his behavior. But
Yeah.
based on real personalities, and we see him as a real person, and we love him for the snowflake he is, the fragile little, I mean, he's that gamer who identifies only as a gamer, not much else. He doesn't have room for much else, so he's just got a lot to protect. But he has honor, and he's good at what he does, and that's something we always wanted to show. He's not one of these characters who's like, you're all terrible, but really then he falls down, like he's not all that. Mitch is amazing. He's arguably the best. It's just how do you define
it's not arguably. Mitch is the best character.
They cannot insult him for being bad at his job.
No, they can't, and they don't. They know he's amazing, and he is. But
I love Mitch.
The price
so
of
much.
amazing. It kind of also asks the question, like, can you be amazing and not also be toxic? And it's a scale. We can all, with just little adjustments, we can, and by identifying ourselves by more than just one thing, we can be a little more well-rounded.
Right.
So I'm interested in seeing more about Mitch. I'm proud that we played with him.
The ones that I mentioned, I'm excited for, but there's also one that, I sometimes you gotta take it back to the classics. So there's one that's specifically pretty heartfelt and opens up more like internal character kind of drama. That's I think was a standout, because when we saw that, I know at least when I saw the animatic, I'm like, man, Team B gets all these like really like it somehow happened that
It's crazy cool.
it got staggered where we got a bunch of like really high action, like super like popcorn muncher episodes. Sometimes we're like, man, that was really fun and really cool. But then Team B would somehow get the ones where it's like, hey, this is gonna make your heart hurt a little bit.
Okay. Some heartbreak.
Yeah, that your storyboard team was like, we want one of those. We want a bite of that cookie.
All right. I'm down with it.
Yeah, I realized which episode Jules is talking about, and I'm like, yeah, that one messes me up in a good way. I think the one that I'm probably the most excited for, not to be confused with something we mentioned earlier, but I think new rivals this season.
Yeah.
Specifically, maybe for Miko.
Yep.
And that's I kind of want to leave it vague. I kind of want to leave it at that.
Yeah.
You'll watch it. You'll know when you watch it.
Okay.
I think something we're really proud of is that, and this started around the episode Collection Quest, which is in our first batch. It was really important to us that we just, even though people can say there's a Monster of the Week format, I like to think of it more as a case file format, because the show would be very boring if we just had another big boss to fight every week. And it's boring to just have monsters and creatures, So we really tried to think of other ways glitches might manifest, and other forms of glitches, and, some with personality, some with none. And I mentioned Collection Quest because there really is no antagonist in that episode. Just these elements appear that ultimately form like a gravity puzzler challenge at the end, but we gave it a face, but there's no personality to it. So we're really proud that in the next batch you're going to see all kinds of glitch challenges and manifestations, and some of them that seem innocent end up actually being more challenging, because that's true of games. It's part of the video game theme, like, oh, this looks simple, this like 1970s thing that has like so little to it, and then cut to you like completely in a pitted t-shirt sweating because you can't keep up with it. That's the amazing thing about the range of game design and the range of code and the algorithms created by designers. So when it's a love letter to video games, it's not just like the stuff of video games, like the visuals. It's also about the elements of what make games great. So we're happy that we explore that more too.
All right. Okay, I got it. My friend D'Angelo Edwards, he runs a Hats Off Media on YouTube. He's a popsicle stick. He has a if that gives you some ideas for future characters. Just saying. But I digress. He mainly wanted me to ask. He just wants to know the secret of, are the glitch techs real and how to join?
Wow, that's question honors us. That was literally the goal when we sat down and said what kind of show we want to make, and we were like, we want it to feel real. Like kids should see a, Best Buy Geek Squad car drive by and think like,
I wonder.
It could be.
Because the shows we loved felt real to us. Like I feel like Doc Brown really built a DeLorean. I feel like the Enterprise could really be in the sky. I feel like the Ghostbusters could be in a firehouse. So that's a really sweet question.
But Hinobi brand products. Thank you for your interest, but you can start a career there. But there's nothing else beyond brilliant tech and
Wow. Because we all love Star Wars, but we kind of know that like we can't really become Jedi. But I do feel like I could build a time machine or become a Ghostbuster or become a glitch tech. So I hope they're real. I believe in them.
I think you have to win a Smash Jam tournament.
Yeah,
is the lore we set up. So if you hear any of those coming to town, let me know, because I want to get my gauntlet.
Yeah, there's a couple ways. Just got to unlock the right achievements in life and video games, and you'll know when they come for you. And they may have already and you've forgotten.
You did something wrong. You did something wrong, and they wiped you. So.
Yeah. Well, we would say there are a lot of recruits that probably get so far in the program, and then if they don't work out, they're just sort of like put back.
Right.
They don't know.
Oh no, that's so sad.
You'll have to do an episode about that. We talked about that kind of idea. We just never really got to it yet.
Right. So early on, like the concepts, like we got to see early concepts for like character designs and such for glitch techs, and Miko and 5 definitely looked a lot more different than they do now in the final product. Where was I? What were the biggest changes going from the pitch to the screen for glitch techs exactly?
There was a lot. There's a huge evolution. There's at least 2.5 years of development on the project. So, in that time, a lot of things changed for us. You talk about design. Design was something that, it was on purpose, to start more on the cartoonier side than what it ended up being, only because the studio didn't want another action show at that time. They had done Korra, and they felt that it didn't do as well as they wanted it to, which is crazy. But for the audience that they were looking for, and I definitely was in the mindset that I had done comedy, I had done Fanboy and Chum Chum, and was really happy with what I accomplished with the comedy side of that. But creatively, I had worked on shows going back to the original X-Men and The Tick and Street Fighter and a lot of these old Capcom kind of games. So my early career was more action, and I wanted to tap back into action, but I knew what the network was asking for wasn't what I wanted to do. So I kind of just try to find a way to do it visually in a cartoony style and have that action within that cartoony style. So a lot of the early animatics that we had done had more of that kind of comedic tone, but also had the action in it as well. And as time went on, just different executives started kind of coming in and out and in and out. So some executives just wouldn't know the difference of what we had done before and what we were doing now. And it allowed us to evolve the style of the show, but also creatively, Dan and I found things that worked and things that didn't work for us, because even the initial pilot that got greenlit for us, it got tested with kids, it changed to what the actual show was as well. Even the heart and the energy was there. We weren't happy with the way 5 was as a character. We love the energy Miko always brought, but there definitely was a disconnect between those two characters. So it allowed us to explore, almost reset kind of the characters in the world for us, even though there was always a foundation underneath it all of I don't know if a foundation is the right word, but more of an energy, a feeling, an energy that we kept consistent. But it definitely evolved through time, and we're very grateful for that, because if not, the show would have been completely different, I think.
It matured and got a little more grounded, I would say. And it was just the benefit of the process of collaborating, and the more time you spend with something, the more it develops. And for good or ill, we had a lot of development time, but we used it. It was never like, the show was never ever sitting on a shelf. Even when the show faced its challenges toward the end, we never sat on a shelf. We were always working on it from development to release.
Right, so you guys making sure it's like getting this proper, not just letting it sit around, just get it done, get it all
Even
out.
when it was released, we were still working on it, because it was released.
Right.
The color was off, and we had this like dimming effect. We had to go in and like let everybody know and get it fixed. So it's like,
because I did note that in my review. I was like, because I figured that wasn't you guys. I felt like that was like some type of weird.
You don't understand how much that
literally a glitch.
It really hurt us. Yeah, that hurt us seeing all those, because we spent so much time with Scott Kakuda and the team, like making sure that the color correct was right, and then because of some algorithm that was done during one of the process, and it delivered. That happened to us, but luckily we got that fixed. So if you still haven't, if the last time you saw the show there was dimming and you didn't understand it, you can rewatch it now, and it's pure Technicolor form.
Rewatch it a few times, and then invite your friends over and get them to rewatch. Well, don't do that right now, but then watch it like 5 or 6 more times after that. Just
it's like sync it up. Google Hangout sync ups. Do that.
Yeah.
There you go. So for our borders, Glitch Tags tends to have a lot going on with its animation and background work and all that. Is that ever like difficult to get all that done? Because I always feel like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into that one. So it's like, are you guys all right? Because it feels like you're insane to be doing all these crazy things.
It honestly, like, it never felt like it was difficult. Like, obviously there were episodes where like, there's a lot to take in. We have a lot that we need to like plan our way through. And I feel like our board team always did a really good job of kind of like syncing up. Like, we draw maps, and I mean, like, literally we'd have battle maps where I would, plan where, the characters were going to be and where the cameras were to help sync up with Sarah and Sung as they do stuff. And I mean, the number of times too that Jules would come in. There's a specific sequence coming up that I'm thinking of where, like, I did some like rough sketches and kind of thumbed things out, and then Jules really kind of saved my butt and came in behind me and like cleaned up a bunch of them and really figured out the flow of some of the motion and everything. Like, it's such a team effort. I don't think I ever felt overwhelmed, because we were really getting to play and do like just the weirdest like fun stuff. But managing it was, it never felt difficult. Like, we had each other's backs a lot.
From being in a revision position, is definitely it's a great starting point, at least for a lot of people. And it typically is the starting point, but you get to kind of see the whole kind of like production of it from the board side and the director side, because you're working so close with the director. You learn a lot from them. You learn a lot from looking at all the boards and like seeing everyone working. Like, there were definitely days where like Phil was saying, where people were very much tired. Like, we get if you're banging your head into a wall and trying to figure out a problem and you finally get it, you're exhausted. But like, the great thing about our crew, and like, it definitely spoiled me going through, and thankfully my crews have been phenomenal for Loud House and for Moon Girl right now. was that we really clicked as a board team. Even if you're really tired, like we would have a really good support group. And so that was very refreshing. It was never a thing where it's like, okay, you're tired and you're going through this one sequence, like you're on your own, like that's your sequence. It was always like a thing where someone would go, man, I'm racking my brain for this one like hookup or this one thing happening here. And we would all kind of like spitball ideas or kind of help each other out, or like, you know, watch over their shoulder and be like, oh, that's really cool, like da 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 da. And it's like, oh, I need to fix this part. It's like, oh, have you tried this instead? And they're like, oh, cool, that's it. And that was across teams too. Like even when we had,
for sure,
when we had like I'll say 2.5 because like team 3 kind of like kept trading people out occasionally. When we had that, like everyone really worked across teams. Like it was never like you had your teams, quote quote, but everyone was on the same team. So it was really nice seeing the cooperation between everybody. And like, you know, I think
the number of times I like kind of poke my head over your desk while and be like, hey, can you come check something out real quick? And then just kind of like disappear again.
Yeah.
And you follow me back over. Like it was like hyper collaborative. We could go knock on Dan and Eric's doors and get them to come look at a segment and get their take on it and then finesse it a little bit more and make sure things were headed in the right direction. And I think to Jules's point, like you were never alone in the best possible way.
Yeah. I think also the I'm not going too far out of your question, I swear. But,
No, say whatever.
I think the voice actor is like, oh my god, the energy that like Monica and Ricardo and like the Luke, Zara, Sandeep, like Josh, all of them who were involved got brought to it, really helped the boarding sections, because like we would have some of the audio.
Yeah.
We'd have some scratch sometimes, and then we'd be like, cool, this is a good, then the audio would come in, and you go, oh, no, I know exactly what they were thinking here. And it just got better and better, because like as they grew with the characters that they were kind of forming, we also understood what they were going for, and then they kind of saw what we were going for because they'd watched the stuff, and it kind of just kept piling on. So yeah, it's really interesting seeing that.
Although I gotta say, this is gonna sound so tangential, I'm sorry, but like the degree to which like Luke as a voice actor for Mitch differentiates from Mitch as a character, like Mitch is, you know, Mitch, and Luke, when you meet him in real life, is just the nicest person ever. And I think the first time I met him, it threw me for such a curve. Not that I expected him to be a jerk, but I was just like, he wanted to like hang out with us and talk to us and come look at the boards and stuff. I don't know.
I remember the first week we had of 101 and 102. After it was over, Luke came up to me and he's like, Mitch is such a bad guy. Like, he was so surprised on how mean he was. He's like, he's such a mean guy or something like that.
Mitch is at his meanest in the pilot, and the reason is we honestly just needed him to be. We needed like a foil, and he steals something very personal from 5, and it's very hard to forgive that.
Right.
But he has his reasons. And then I think in episode 5, or I think in Netflix it's episode 4, it seems that he's willing to basically kill 5's friend to defeat this glitch. And that's an implication, but we did have a version of that story where you understood Mitch would not actually kill him, but it did put Casino at risk. No matter what, Casino was very much at risk as this thing was nesting in his mind. But I think we actually had dialogue at one point to show that like Mitch wanting to take him out and bring him back to HQ immediately was actually the right move. So you can just get him and extract this thing. But of course, like 5 doesn't know everything about glitch teching yet. We had also talked about Mitch having had a previous experience with a possessor glitch, which is why he's skewed, and that character development was sadly removed from that episode for time. But we don't really believe in villains, and we believe in people with
Perspective.
just very divergent outlooks, and
Yeah, different perspectives. Yeah.
that's what we always tried to work from. And Luke brought his soul to Mitch, which I think gives him, like, people can detect that there's a person in there because, you know, that's who Luke is.
His first foray into voice acting, he brought his A game. Although he brings his A game to everything. Like, same with everyone else. I'm shocked that Monica can balance directing and then coming in and doing voices, like, off the cuff. And same with, like, Ricardo, like, such a nice guy.
Yeah, it was really Ricardo's first voice acting gig.
Was that really?
Really?
Yeah, Monica, for her, she had done voices previously, but not in a series. So it was her first series. And Scott Kramer, who played Phil, he had only ever done one other voice, which was on Pinky Malinky as like the Nurse Nancy character. We had a lot of first timers.
Scott scared me. It's when I heard when I heard him walking through the hallway, because I didn't know he was working there. When I heard him walking and just talking, like, what, Phil? Like, I was like,
yeah, he's just in the hallway because Pinky
I was
Malinky was on our floor.
so good.
So he was the head writer of Pinky Malinky.
I was hoping y'all were gonna bring that up because I remember Jules walking over to me one day and being like, "I just heard Phil's voice. I think I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I might be losing my mind."
He's managing us. He's the co-executive producer of Camp Cretaceous at DreamWorks, which is the Jurassic Park series coming to Netflix.
Yeah.
I should say, lastly, like, there's always energy that actors bring to boards, you know, but what was also unique about our show and that we're really proud of is Eric and I directed the voiceover sessions, and we would always make sure that the actors saw the most recent boards so that they were working in tandem off whatever stage boards was at. They were using that to anchor their performance. And then whatever energy they gave back went back to the board team, and so forth and so on until we locked. And we also would encourage directors and artists to come to booth records when they could and just get to know folks. And also the voice actors would come visit the production floor. And Luke especially would sit in on animatic sessions and things. And that gave everybody like just an absolute direct relationship. And they became, you know, tandem puppeteers of the same characters, you know, and it really, really, really helped bring out all this other dimension. And they also just appreciated each other so much. Everyone, you know, like somebody would say to Luke, like, "Oh, I'm such a fan of what you're doing." He'd be like, "I'm a fan of yours." Like, everyone was blowing everyone else's minds. The actors would look at the boards and be like, "This is amazing."
He was so genuine about that kind of stuff. He's like, you could tell, because at first you're like, cool, they might be interested in it. That's really cool what you're doing. But he'd be like, "No, I really want. How do you do this? What's the process of how you do this?" And it's like, oh, he actually wants to know how you do this.
Yeah, I want to learn.
Oh,
you know?
Oh gosh.
I mean, he came and like just hung out with us one time. Like we went and watched a movie at Sung's house, and we hit him up, thinking like, God, it would be so cool if he actually like came over and said yes. And then like 45 minutes later, we hear a knock on Sung's front door, and it's just Luke. They're like, "Hey, what's up, guys? Y'all want to watch a movie now?" Like it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, artists like artists, and good people like good people. And so, you know, it's just the whole team, the whole crew, even our animators overseas that we got to know through social media, like everybody's friends. And that was pretty magical.
Right. So is there anything you want to wrap this up with?
Ooh, yeah, because we did go for a while. I guess any major misconceptions of glitch text that you want to like dispel per se?
I'm trying to think.
Exceptions. Like, give us an example, maybe.
We're not insanely expensive when it comes to comparing us to other action series. The look and style of glitch text is producible.
Yeah, it's not what everybody's making it out to be. I mean, you know, maybe we kind of misspoke here and there and saying like action is a lot more expensive than, you know, comedy shows, but that's any show that's action, you know, and in comparison to many shows that are being produced now, even the comedy ones are comparable now.
Yeah, we went through a very unique development period, but at the end of the day, we're comparable to the other action shows in our genre, and that's a fact.
Yeah. I think another misconception is that we were also helped by Maven, which we were not. It was not animated at Maven. You know, our show
that got out there somehow. I don't know why.
Yeah, we were animated by Flying Bark, Studio 100 in Paris, and also Top Draw in the Philippines.
Yes.
So I'm guessing Flying Bark was a lot of the big action scenes.
Flying Bark did 2 episodes for us. They did.
And they went to do Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Yeah, they continued with the Ninja Turtle series, but they did 2 episodes for us, which were, I guess, considered on Netflix 102 and 103. Correct, guys?
Yeah, it was the Training Day and Going Gauntlet, I think.
Yes.
So
they did the intro too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did the intro.
And the opening theme.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the series was either done primarily by Studio 100, assisted by Top Draw, and then many in the upcoming drop were just entirely by Top Draw.
All right. So biggest thing is like, because that was something I'd look at this and I was thinking, it's like, boy, this probably had to have a big budget or something. But from what you're saying, it's like it's producible in a pretty decent budget. It doesn't like blow over or anything.
We were just smart, I think, you know, in the way that we did it, because you know, if you look at our show, you know, we have you know, our talking head type moments, right? And then we would spend our money on more of those big action kind of moments, and that's where you see a lot of the shots that were done at Studio 100 in Paris, with a lot of the, you know, animators who would kind of go over the top and do those sections. So we had a limited amount of time that we would animate at one particular studio, and then the rest was done at another studio. So that's how we balanced out, and we're able to get the quality of animation that we got.
Yeah, we also locked it down over time, the methods we would use, the amount of like splash pages or flat but dynamic animation. There's an incredible sequence coming up that Phil boarded, which was something we talked about being almost impossible in theory. It was like a very ambitious action scene. And then we talked about flattening it to one plane of animation, which made it much more doable. And not only was it better for production, when you see it, you'll see why it's perfect for the show and totally unique and really entertaining. So it's arguably better than anything we would have spent, you know, an insane amount of resources on. I think the reason the show, you know, has this reputation financially is not just because it, you know, has such high production value, but because it took so abnormally long to develop, which was a factor of a lot of things, including, you know, where Nickelodeon was at the time. But the show itself, our producer Lisa Woods who was managing us, was like, we were on time and budget, and especially when we were cranking those episodes out, you know, in the second half. So yeah, it's doable, you know. It just was a process to get started and figure out our pipeline.
All right. So well, we reached pretty much the end of everything. This was such a very informative and fun chat with all of you. And I can tell that Glitch Text is a very meaningful project for all of you. I can get the sense of love coming from all of you as you speak about it. I got it from just watching it even, but but it solidifies it more with actually talking with all of you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for having us and for reaching out and for doing this. I think it's our official first kind of like interview that we've done, and now I think we're gonna be doing a few of these now.
All right.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like,
yeah, thank you so much. We can't say enough how much we appreciate it.
All right. And everyone else could check out Glitch Tech Season 2 August 17th on Netflix when it drops.
Woo!
Be sure to give that a watch. And just remember, it's just a thought.